Hundreds of Colorado's federal employees were fired last month.
I made it till the February 13th massacre with everybody else on the probationary list.
And just when they thought that was the worst news, now they're learning they can't collect unemployment. President Donald Trump prepares to speed up deportations using an obscure, centuries-old law. Bad news for Black Hills customers. Your electric rate is going up for the first time in years. But hey, at least it's almost the weekend.
My good news is it's 1 week till spring break. Yay!
Even better, we end the week with your good news tonight on Next.
Hundreds of federal workers and employees who have lost their job in the past month have already filed for unemployment. And we're getting a better idea of where it's happening, what's happening, and which federal departments saw the biggest cuts. And if losing a job wasn't bad enough, some folks are learning they can't get the unemployment benefits they were hoping for. Here's Jennifer Meckles.
I don't just work a job just for a job. I want a purpose with a purpose. And this was my purpose, to be able to serve my community, and I feel like it's gone.
A dream job with the Department of Energy, gone in an instant for Randy Nusser.
I made it till the February 13th massacre with everybody else on the probationary list.
Probationary because she was just hired in November.
I was in the profession of finding fraud, waste, and abuse. It's very frustrating to hear this rhetoric coming out of the administration about finding all this fraud, waste, and abuse, and they're letting go of people who find fraud, waste, and abuse.
Randy is one of more than 600 former federal workers who have now filed for unemployment in Colorado since January 19th. Her Department of Energy represents 4.8% of the claimants, right behind the Departments of Agriculture, Treasury, Interior and National Park Service, and Veterans Affairs.
I feel like I fell through a ginormous crack that is an unintended consequence.
Randy says she was approved for her claim, but only got one payment. Hired so late in the year and so recently, she was outside of the necessary base period.
It came back as not having any funds available. I hope that they can figure out something to help those of us that fell through this kind of a crack, because I know I can't be the only one out there. There's got to be something that they can do to help us land a little softer.
So Randy got that one payment, but she's nervous to use the money in case it's later determined that she wasn't actually eligible for the benefits and would be asked to repay that money. So much uncertainty right now with a lot of these layoffs. Just yesterday, remember, 2 judges ruled the Trump administration has to rehire a bunch of people that they had already laid off, so that only adds more uncertainty to all of this.
So many questions, because what if they were already getting unemployment? Yep. What about back pay?
Yeah, so the Colorado Department of Labor tells us that with all this changing guidance, there's a couple of just like good to know basics. If you get rehired from a job you were laid off on for the government, you get some back pay, any sort of income's coming back into you, you need to report it, number one. And if you were getting unemployment in that time, you may have to repay it, again, if you're gonna be getting back pay. So I would say like the general guidance is be conservative with your money on this. If you somehow end up with money covering the difference, and you get it double, you just might have to back pay it, or you may have to repay the government. So it's tricky.
It feels though like a lot of probationary folks are kind of going to be in this same position.
Yes, a lot of people are kind of in this, am I eligible? Am I not eligible for these unemployments like Randy because of that short time she was working? It's hard to know on the front end. The Department of Labor says just apply. Like apply, part of the application process is the vetting. You have an opportunity not just to like say, hey, I got unemployed or I'm unemployed now, but like you can have, here's my past work history, here's the circumstances of my unemployment. And they said a lot of people can find out in that process that they are in fact eligible. So try. Just go ahead and try in the meantime.
Yeah, just submit.
Yes, go through the process and see if it can work for you maybe.
All right, Jennifer Meckles, thank you so much. After Denver was awarded a federal FEMA grant of $31 million to help shelter migrants, the Trump administration is saying, hold on, no reimbursement until we determine if the city violated a smuggling law. The city received this letter today saying reimbursement payments will be paused as the Department of Homeland Security has concerns the city may be guilty of, quote, encouraging immigrants to come and reside in the United States, as well as potentially transporting them or harboring them. The city of Denver was awarded a grant called the Shelter and Services Grant under the Biden administration. Much of that $31 million is still outstanding. meaning the city is waiting on reimbursement, and it makes up, get this, a third of the entire cost that the city spent on the migrant crisis here locally, roughly a third. Now, all of that recompensation will be paused as DHS reviews, asking the city to provide names and contact information for every single migrant served, along with the services they received, all within 30 days of receiving that letter. Now, President Trump has promised to carry out mass deportations. Now, he's reportedly planning to use a 227-year-old law, 2 centuries old, to give himself the wartime power to deport people without hearings. It's an idea that he floated at his rally in Aurora last fall to fast-track Venezuelan gang members for deportation. Our Spencer Soiter explains how all of this would work.
To expedite the removals of these savage gangs, and I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798.
At his rally in Aurora last October, now President Donald Trump said he would carry out a 227-year-old law to initiate his Operation Aurora to speed up deportation.
1798, that's a long time ago, right?
Yes, it is, Mr. President, but it's been used since then, 3 times.
All 3 times during wartime. So after there's been a congressional declaration of war during the War of 1812, the First World War, and World War II.
According to multiple national reports, President Trump plans to invoke the Wartime Authority as soon as today. The law gives the president wartime power to deport people without hearings if deemed necessary.
What the Alien Enemies Act allows the president of the United States to do is to find that another country has made a predatory incursion into the United States that endangers the population of the United States.
Trump has already used that language to describe Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
Because they are a vicious group. They went into Colorado. They took over areas of Colorado.
Violetta Chapin is a law professor at CU Boulder. She specializes in immigration.
President Trump has laid the groundwork for the American public to accept that perhaps other countries are hostile to the United States.
While the president said he was going to do this while at the rally in Aurora, he said it at other campaign rallies too. Chapin says if Trump invokes this, it's sure to end up in court.
Almost everything he's done has ended up in court.
And in this case, because it's an outdated, infrequently used law, even attorneys haven't heard of.
Everybody's had to go look it up. The Alien Enemies Act was created in 1798 before we had an immigration system, before we had a robust criminal justice system, and before we had any of the advanced technology that we have that allows us to actually detect people who are hostile to the United States.
All right, so one of the questions here, can he do this against a specific gang, all of Venezuelans? Chapin says it's tough to know how any of this will work because it's a 277-year-old law. There hasn't been a congressional declaration of war with another country here.
All right, well, we'll have to wait and see how people interpret that because it is such an old law. Thank you so much, Spencer. The Department of Education is investigating 50 universities as Trump cracks down on DEI initiatives, accusing those universities of using racial preferences and stereotypes. On that list, the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. 45 universities are now facing questions about their ties to the PhD project. Now, that small nonprofit helps minority students, especially Black, Latino, and Native American students, earn advanced business degrees and land university faculty positions. Some universities have recently cut ties with the nonprofit, citing the Trump administration's DEI crackdown. UCCS told us their partnership amounted really to advertising open faculty positions on the PhD project's job boards, but that they do not discriminate in recruitment or hiring projects. In a memo today, Education Secretary Linda McMahon said that the investigation is part of the department's efforts to, quote, ensure universities are not discriminating against their students based on race or race stereotypes. The administration is also opening investigations into scholarship programs at 6 other universities. We want to say a quick thanks for all you've done this week to make sure every kid in Golden has a place to play regardless of their abilities. Here's Kyle with an update on this week's microgiving campaign.
I'm a lucky dad that my girls are still in their playground years. No, that won't last forever, so I try not to say no whenever they want to go to a playground. One of their favorites is the inclusive playground that you, Next viewers, helped to build in Aurora next to the Stanley Marketplace years ago. Let's share some of that inclusive playground love with the west side of town. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is boosting a community's playground project in Jefferson County. The Shelton Elementary School community in Golden has been fundraising for their inclusive playground for years. This is the current setup. It leaves a little bit to be desired. One thing I really respect is that the community has already raised enough money to build out the basics of an inclusive playground space, and they're going to start that build this summer. But parents and students are still out in the community fundraising to add even more inclusive playground equipment to make this place bigger and better. I should mention, this truly is a community project because it's open to the public outside of school hours, so anybody can go there. The extra funds that we raise together are going to help add more sensory elements, which is especially important for Shelton's classes for students on the autism spectrum. It'll expand the poured surfaces so that kids with mobility challenges can reach more of the playground. And it'll pay for more inclusive equipment that encourages kids to play together. So they funded their playground. They're off to a great start. We're going to be able to supercharge and expand it with our help. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get that link to join me and a bunch of other Coloradans in giving. More than 4,500 of you have signed up to simplify your giving with a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. It means that we have been able to start recent micro-giving campaigns with more than $30,000 in donations each week. You can use that same QR code or text to get there.
Folks in southern Colorado better put some extra cash aside for their electric bills next month. And no, it's not Excel this time. The city of Boulder wants to turn one of Colorado's most painful memories into an opportunity for healing.
For the first time in 12 years, we now have a girls' soccer program.
And we end the week the way we always do, with a dose of your good news. That's next. It's hard enough sometimes to stomach your electric bill, even harder now that regulators have approved a hefty rate increase for electric customers, specifically in southern Colorado. It's not the 18% rate hike that they actually wanted, that Black Hills wanted, in fact, but the average customer will still see their bill increase by more than $7 a month. This week, the Public Utilities Commission approved a $17 million electric rate increase for Black Hills Energy, which serves about 100,000 electric customers around Pueblo and Canyon City. Now, that is expected to add about $7.40 to the average residential bill each month, and more for commercial customers. Black Hills had originally asked for a $36 million rate increase for service upgrades and equipment maintenance. The rate increase has drawn major criticism from elected officials in Pueblo and Fremont counties, where the median income falls well below the state average. Now, Pueblo is considering a plan to break up with Black Hills and start a municipal utility service instead. Voters will weigh in on that in May. Corey, it was so windy outside today. I woke up and I was like, what's going on? But you warned us. You really did.
Yeah, it was a really powerful storm system. Winds stretched across the entire state and really the entire region. It's starting to die down a little bit now. No more winter weather advisories in the high country as the snow starts to dissipate. And now the winds will also start to diminish as well. Here's our storm system now out here in central Kansas. So we're putting a little distance from that. Big the dust storms down here to the south and severe weather out to the east of it as it continues to have an impact. But it is moving out of our region. So the winds will start to diminish as we go through the next several hours. The high winded warning here on the eastern plains goes until 8 o'clock. So after 8 o'clock, that's when those 65-mile-per-hour potential starts to diminish a little bit. And tomorrow, less windy, but not quite super warm, not too bad either, in the 50s with some sunshine across the Front Range and the eastern plains. And when you look at your 7-day forecast here, we got a really warm one coming up on Monday, St. Patty's Day. We could be very close to record high temperatures. And then our next storm system comes in here Tuesday afternoon, switching to snow. This one not as strong, but it looks like it may have a little bit of a colder tinge to it. So we're looking at snow in Denver on Wednesday.
Looks like a pretty nice week. Thanks so much, Corey. Now, more than 200 Cheyenne and Arapaho people were killed in the Sand Creek Massacre in 1864. Now, the city of Boulder is working to keep part of the history alive. The Fort Chambers Poor Farm open space in northeast Boulder is where more than 100 Boulder County residents mobilized into Company D of Colorado's 3rd Cavalry in 1864. Company D then marched to the tribal encampment in southeastern Colorado, where they attacked the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes. The City of Boulder Open Space is working with members of the tribes to build a healing trail through the area where Fort Chambers used to stand. They hope the mile-long path will provide opportunities to learn the history of the land.
The idea is for it to be a healing trail, and so it's something where you can understand about the past and learn that we can do better in the future, and learn that the tribes have just such a deep, important culture, and the fact that they're still here and we have these relationships and can learn from each other is just so important.
Boulder Open Space wants your input on the project as well. They are hosting a community workshop at Boulder City Hall next Friday if you're interested. Montbello High School got a serious glow up, and now everyone is taking notice. It's good news. Years in the making. Next. And a reminder, you can also catch Next streaming each night at 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus. And Next is also now a podcast. Each weeknight, find us wherever you get your podcasts. The Center for High School Success, CHSS, has announced Montbello High School as the newest demonstration school. What's that? That's good news. It means the success they've shown at the 9th grade level is so good that other schools from around the nation will be coming to Montbello to see the secret ingredients to their success. We stopped by today to the school to see them on our favorite Friday question.
I know this school is very special to its community, and I read about, how it closed back in, I think, 2012. A year and a half ago, you were at 65% of your students on track. End of semester 1, you're at 85% of your students on track. It's remarkable.
My good news is just that, Montbello is here, and our kids are thriving, our space is thriving.
You guys deserve to be a CHSS National Demonstration School.
That's part of the narrative of why we are a demonstration school for the Center for High School Success. It's just the intentionality of the work is really showing results. So I think that's my good news.
My good news is 1 week till spring break. Yay!
We are so grateful for this recognition as a demonstration school.
My good news is that my cats are both turning 4 years old this weekend. So happy birthday to Conan and Shippo.
I want to express how proud I am of the individuals in this room, but particularly you as the teachers.
Our good news here at Montbello High School is that for the first time in 12 years, we now have a girls soccer program. It's truly an honor to be the first head coach of the rebirth of our program.
My good news is it is spring break with my kiddos and we're heading up to the mountains.
My good news is my boyfriend is finally moving back home after being gone for a couple of years for work.
It's really cool to have found this home and this space to be in, right? I love it here.
Love that, and happy Friday to you. We're back next with your feedback. It's a sign that not every terrible driver in Colorado is doing it on purpose, so think before you give them the one-finger salute. A viewer snapped this shot in Longmont, a beginner driver asking for a bit of grace, because let's face it, life can be hard enough. Quote, "I don't know how to manage my life, much less my car. Keep your distance." That's definitely how I felt when I was 16, so I feel you. Feedback tonight from Stasia on Insta for Kyle. "I remember watching you on TV as a kid. Man, we're making us feel old, Stasia." Thanks for watching.